In part one of our conversation with Michelle Nolan, she breaks down tarot in a way that you can understand, and she talks about her tarot therapy readings. In part two of our conversation, you'll get to see or hear Michelle in action as she gives Karen and I a reading about the entity we're creating for all seekers. Get ready for a mind-blowing episode.
Okay, Spirit, please open up the session to Robin and Karen regarding their new entity and what kind of messages you want to give them regarding the creation of their project and business, what kind of blocks you might see energetically and feel and they need to know. So I'm gonna do like a small spread and then we'll, obviously they'd be different. We were really diving in, but
you're using one deck to start, right?
yeah, so this is would be my core spread. I always pick one deck as the main energy of the story. There are different types of spreads. What I normally do in sessions, in the hour and a half sessions, is it's called a Celtic spread, and there's just a lot more information there. This is more of a kind of a general top line spread, I would say. So this is the core spread. This is the heart of this reading, okay? So the heart of this reading is the 10 of Pentacles. So this is great, okay? This tells me right in the heart of the reading that this is about legacy. This is about actually having fulfillment in an abundant, tangible way. So if we're talking about a business, something that we want to actually see it be fruitful in a financial way and success that society views as successful, this is a great card to have because it's tangible. Pentacles are tangible, okay? And the 10 of Pentacles, meaning that it's ultimately highly abundant, okay? So that's kind of the heart of the reading right now, all right? So already I'm kind of seeing, looking around the whole spread, that you have some major arcana cards and some minor arcana cards, but the major arcana ones that you have right now are all pretty positive. 10 of Pentacles is not major arcana, that's a minor arcana. So we're going to clarify this a little bit more about the 10 of Pentacles in the center of the spread. So what I'm getting about this, I am hearing more about this particular card about legacy. So almost like about it being lasting much longer than maybe even the two of you.
I love that. That's the goal.
That is the goal. Oh my gosh.
So I kind of am sensing almost hearing kind of taking on a life of its own.
I hope so.
Yeah, feels bigger than the two of you together. Okay, so the clarification on that card is the Strength card, King of Wands, and Two of Swords. So the feeling that I have more than anything about kind of the abundance that is possible, right? This is like not that it's going to happen, but the potential of it happening. Is the Strength card is major arcana, and the King of Wands is about that masculine energy of drive, ambition, leadership, actually taking the passion and making something happen without, not necessarily without thinking, but there is a little bit of like, let's move quickly and let's also make decisions quickly and just go for things, okay? So the Strength card with the King of Wands, the Two of Swords is about indecision. So I think the heart of the spread, more than anything about this creative entity, is about having courage. The King of Wands is about forging ahead, okay? Forging through. He's inspiring. So he's about, going places that people have not gone before, right? He's the adventurer. He's the explorer. Wow. And the Two of Swords is about indecision. So if I get the Strength, King of Wands, and the Two of Swords there, to really have this abundant entity that, like, I feel like I said, is more like a legacy thing, is you have to embody that courage, particularly when it comes to anything that you feel indecisive on. Mm-hmm. So instead of overthinking, you would just go for it.
Yep.
Where have we heard that before?
Yeah, Karen.
And I love it's in the heart of your spread because that tells me the potential, right? The potential of greatness is there, and I'm not talking about fulfillment. I'm talking about success as it looks in the 3D world, right? Okay, so storyline up here leading into that is we're starting with the Six of Swords. You did get the King of Wands again, okay? So that is, we're kind of creating the story of how we're getting there. So the Six of Swords is to me, what I'm hearing more than anything, is about leaving things behind that really don't serve you anymore. Leaving things behind, and I'm talking about work, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking about work for both of you, leaving things that are just no longer fitting, right? From a career, contentment, fulfillment standpoint, and just kind of sailing away from that. Okay. Now you get the King of Wands again, which tells me pretty strongly that really, and I'm getting the Fool and the Two of Cups. This is passion project. Okay. This is literally starting something totally new, right? Which we're familiar with the Fool, Karen. And then the Two of Cups is about the fulfillment. Okay. It's about, and it could be about the two of you also, because usually that's a relationship. So, but more than anything, I'm feeling moving, that started the seed of it is the passion. It's the passion project. It is the moving from something maybe stable to something maybe not as stable, but you know that it's the right thing to do. Okay, so then we have the Moon card. The Moon, which I think maybe Robin had got before about.
I did, yes.
That's the path of not being clear, right? It's not being sure, not trusting because things are foggy, things might be based in passion, when I'm hearing, based in the want and desire, but maybe it hasn't practically come together, right? So what I'm getting at next to this is that the Empress, remember we know her again, right? Okay. So what I'm getting with this Moon card, what I'm feeling more than anything, is you get the Empress to the Eight of Cups to the Seven of Pentacles. I'm hearing the Eight of Cups is about letting go. Okay. It's about really, again, going away from things that don't serve you. Before, it was actually making that movement. This is about fundamentally and emotionally letting go of, and kind of nurturing that aspect of, and investing in something that is unknown. Okay. So this idea of the Empress here to me is more about, she's very nurturing, and it's like nurturing these emotional pieces that don't serve you, because we're going to take our investment into a path that is really quite dark, because we aren't sure and we don't know where it's headed, but it still feels right because it's based, from what we saw originally, it's based in kind of this fundamental passion project of, this is where I feel like I need to go.
Yep. Right on target.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we were saying, like, we don't know. I mean, we don't, but this is validating that we don't, and that's okay. You have to trust it.
Right. You have to trust it. And really what they're talking about here is this, I mean, some of this is patience, because the Seven of Crystals energy and also the Empress energy is very patient. What I'm hearing too is the investment doesn't look the same like it did before. Because if we're leaving a world that we, like, think of it like leaving an island to go to another island. We're not really sure what that other island looks like, but we also are taking things from what we knew before and trying to apply it now. And the way that this investment looks like is like you're investing a lot more emotionally and in the patience, that kind of fundamental patience that's required that you probably didn't have before.
Yes, very much. And that's for both of us.
Yeah. All right. So then we move to the King of Cups. Again, this seems like the whole start of this, before we are getting, and this is kind of like more historic in this area here, like how this all started, is a lot of this is highly emotional. Okay. Like this whole spread up top is pretty emotional, because the Six of Swords is about kind of leaving something that's kind of triggers us and then going to a place where we need to be more patient and investing. And then the King of Cups is about, he is in very much control of his emotion. Okay. He's masterful at taking any form of emotion that maybe doesn't serve him and kind of, doing something with that, like either letting it go or just not acknowledging it. So when I get this in like a work setting, and in particular, you're getting it here, like 10 of Wands, Ace of Swords, 4 crystals. Okay. This tells me very much, before this moves into anything that's successful, that there has to be a slashing, okay? It's like kind of a slashing of any ties, emotional ties to your past way of working. And those are, you bring that into this entity, it's going to feel like a burden. Okay. It's not going to feel right anymore. It's going to feel like you're holding on to something old, like an old, let's say if you're used to, waking up every day at 8 o'clock and going to your desk and doing
Right.
that type of job, like that's going to feel old to you. That's not going to feel like what's part of this anymore. What I'm getting is historically, right, where this all kind of came from is the passion, this kind of drive to start this new thing because you feel very connected to it. I would say this has already happened and it's probably going to continue, but it's probably more so has happened already. I'm sure there's this feeling between the two of you now. When you do your job at your 9 to 5 job, it's not going to feel right. And it feels old.
Very
Not
much.
just like a burden anymore, but it doesn't, like when I say old, it feels like I'm almost like hearing the question, like, people still work this way?
Yeah.
That's Robin asking me that question. Like,
Yes, only because I went through it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because what Karen's going through right now is what I went through a few years ago, but that was so ingrained in me. But that is
Mhm.
what was going on. And so now when it's coming up for Karen, I'm like, I went through, like, you believe me, because we are so energetically connected. I know what you're feeling, and we have to change it. So.
Yeah, it almost like, it's like when you, like, I almost feel like it's like, I'm getting the picture, or they're showing me like a snake molting. That molting process, it's not necessarily painful, but it's definitely like a transition where
Yeah.
it's the new version, just you can't really go back to the old version anymore.
No, you can never. And I know for
But-
me, I can't. Like,
right.
and you say that all the time.
I do.
And I say it now too. I know I can't either.
So I think more than anything, this, like I said, I kind of feel like it's just has happened or happening. And like I said, obviously you're two people. So
But it makes so much sense. It does.
Yeah.
We're very much mirrors of each other from a work perspective.
but it's emotional. Those emotions are valid and you have to acknowledge them and release them, right? Like to say, like, that's why that King of Cups is showing up as the main card here, is you have to acknowledge those feelings of being like, yeah, I am going to leave this behind. Even though I know it feels old, there's still a part of me that is so tied into my past. And I have to, it's like moving on to a new relationship,
It is.
You have to say goodbye.
This is the conversation we just had the other day. Remember? It's the
Yeah.
exact conversation about, like, for me, it's an identity too.
Both
that I
of us, it's been an identity. Yeah.
Yeah, and Robin's ahead of me on the journey, but that's a big part of the emotional attachment, is like who I am as a result of that role, right? And that identity. And we've also talked about too how our philosophy of what we want our company to be and the people who work for us to be so completely different than the world that we came from. And we have a really strong vision what that looks like.
Yes, let that go. I think, we see how it started, we see where we're heading, and that, I mean, I would even recommend, it sounds weird, but you two are so spiritual, like, you guys should do a little ceremony to say goodbye to those selves.
Ooh, I definitely want to do that.
That
That's a great idea. We will plan that.
That was historic. Now where we are presently. So you have the King of Pentacles. Okay. So now we're in work mode. Now we're in making it happen mode. Okay. This is the King of Pentacles. He is slow, methodical, practical. Everything is result oriented. He wants to see, plan. He wants to have a strategy and plans and then put those plans into action. Okay. Now he's not quick because he is more about the quality of things versus what I'm seeing here about that energy is that you have the Sun card, the Ace of Wands, and the Three of Wands. It feels to me, the passion is still there. Okay. This is almost like it's funny to me. What I'm getting is the racehorse thing again, like this, like, horse is like behind the gate and there's so much energy and passion, like being stored in this horse. The Sun and the Ace of Wands has just so much positive energy, and then it has to wait. It has to stop. It has to slow. It's like if a racehorse, if you asked it to slow down, they'd have a hard time doing that. But the energy is positive. Like all that energy of the King of Pentacles, he seems to be filled with this kind of passion and exuberance, like optimistic. Like there's such an optimism here. But you're also asked to wait and go slowly. With intention. The King of Pentacles is very intentional. And I will say this, for me, the King of Pentacles is really the only one in the deck, as far as the face cards, that actually makes something tangible in the world. So he tells me this is why he's moving towards this Ten of Pentacles, that he's actually successful, right? Like you have to embody that energy. This entity and the two of you have to embody that energy to have something tangible in the world. So that's all great. I think the only kind of block there is holding back the desire to move, to move fast, to move quickly, to do a lot. Okay. Because the King of Pentacles, he does a lot, but it's like I said, it's more in quality versus quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about the center. Now we're past. If we have gotten to this place where you guys have created this entity now that seems to be, that's where this quickness comes in. And then these decisions come at you faster, and you have to take on this role now of being the pioneer, right? You guys are the pioneers at this point. The strength of your decisions come from you leading the way. It's not really about the slowness anymore. It's about the making sure the decisions that are made are progressive as we move forward into the future. Okay, so you have the Justice card Justice card is the main one. So I feel like all this hard work is paying off now. Okay, so after we've been courageous in our decisions, the Justice card kind of tells us that things will start balancing out. Now, I am getting this interesting death rebirth here. Okay, so what I'm kind of sensing is there might be a little bit of a dip. Okay, and the rebirth seems to be happening there's still this I almost feel like there's this back and forth of still trying to go back to some old ways, old things, because this Four of Pentacles is what came up before in your past and what the Spirit wanted you to kind of let go of. And now it's coming up again. And the Justice card, like I said, can go both ways. If you are holding on to something that you shouldn't be holding on to, then it has a karmic element to it. Okay. Then it kind of creates friction. And that to me is kind of Spirit saying, you didn't totally do that. We're trying to get you to do that, and you're not totally getting you do that. So they throw this death card at you, which means that you actually have to reinvent. Okay. Death is about ending something and transforming it. It's not about shutting it down completely. It's about transforming it, because the Four of Swords here is also about healing. Whatever you're holding on to in these old ways, now that you're hearing this message, if you can do that before you have some tangible entities going, you're going to be much better off. Otherwise, you're going to, I think, hit this little rough patch of having to like backtrack and then redesign. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we're doing that ceremony. That's happening. And then we're committing to the death of some of our old ways.
I can see how that would happen too, in a sense, right? Because if you're building something and it all of a sudden gets really big, and you work a certain way for so long, I can see that it is a good watch out. I mean, I think we're really clear on what we're looking for, but if it gets to be a lot bigger and a lot more people come on board too.
Spirit's like saying, like, just be cognizant that, because the harder you're reading, the foundation of this success is having the courage to be a pioneer. Okay, it's having that courage, and that's the potential, right? It's the potential. It's not saying this is going to be successful. It's saying that's the potential if you kind of follow the path correctly. When you guys had that initial spark up here about this, because the King of Wands shows in the beginning, and the Fool, and like having that true connection to a new way of being, a new way of doing work life, you gotta have to always reference that, because it's very easy to go back to the how we're used to working.
Good.
I'm also getting making sure that you two, as the inspiration team, right, for this own thing, you set up like a protective boundary so that you guys can be in that powerhouse pioneering mode, and that you let other people handle those real tangible detailed stuff.
This is
You
such
have to
an
be
important message. I can't even stress it enough, because while Karen and I have that part of us, we also do have this other part that is the doer, that is so used to the doing. And that is a measure of if we're working hard enough. And
Yeah.
it is like, I think what you said about having to like kill that part of us off is so key in order to achieve what we are looking to achieve.
Yes. And the other thing I'm hearing, they're saying specifically, make sure all your decisions are inspired. Moving forward, so I'm getting the Temperance card. Okay, this is a major arcana. This is also about balance and patience too. It's a little bigger. It's more about kind of blending this like kind of alchemy of balance that happens in a very positive sense. It's not just about patiently waiting, which I kind of got more restless energy before. This is actually now where we are more in balance. And what I'm seeing here is that the balance actually revolves around the actual physical work, the effort being put in. And then here's that counterpart, the Queen of Wands, which is the King of Wands counterpart. Now we're kind of in more of an alignment. Okay, there's an alchemy of the work and the passion and the vision. And then the Seven of Wands tells me that we're kind of standing our ground in that. Okay. So we're able to balance that out more and understand that blend is what's needed. Vision and the actual work involved. So that's good. The Temperance card is great because like the balances has already been incorporated into who she is. So then I'm getting the Five of Rods to the Wheel of Fortune. What I'm sensing here is once things kind of go through a kind of this hiccup and then they balance out, it's more of like a machine, like it's running more smoothly. Then there's going to be a shift that has to do with competition. So I think what actually comes up here is now you're in a space where you're competing. Before you weren't in a competing space. Before you guys were like pioneers trying to get this vision out there. And now we're actually in a competitive space. And that requires for companies, for businesses, for leaders to go through kind of a painful process, okay? Because this is Ten of Swords is about actually, again, going through some kind of release, but like killing off a piece to restart something new again, to have a shift in your direction. And if you don't shift the direction, what I'm seeing is that it gets stuck, and where it gets stuck is financially. The big cards here that we're getting is this is like about competition, and this is about the Wheel of Fortune is about that timing of moving things forward correctly. The Wheel of Fortune card is about a major shift and change. Like I kind of see this storyline now with the business. It's like you guys are these pioneers and you have this bubble of vision that you're kind of trying to draw people into and kind of maintain that integrity. And then there's kind of this hiccup of going back to old ways, maybe because you aren't feeling like it's moving fast enough. And then you come back, and now we've learned that there's this alchemy of our vision and our work. The work effort needs to be more combined. And then things start running, right? They're smooth. Things start building. They're good. And then there's a competitive action that happens where that space becomes maybe other people are trying to do the same thing, or you're getting to a place where like, now how do we reinvent ourselves? This is cyclical, because look how this ends. You guys are going to have to go back to being the King of Wands.
Wow, that's crazy.
How many times did he show up?
3.
Wow.
I'll just tell you, this is how spirit works. In the very first card, he's the one that drove the sea change. He's in the heart of your reading to be the leader and the pioneer, and he's at the end of your reading because you have to shift again to be successful. He needs to be there all the time. That energy, I think, that's exhausting. You can't really be in that energy all the time. But my point is, I think what they're trying to show you this picture of, you can always go back to that beginning place. It's a cycle. Even in the success of your business, you should always go back to that beginning of, why did we start this? What are we trying to accomplish? Get that energy back of starting something new that we're connected to, that we can be pioneers of again. Doesn't mean you're letting go of what's established. You just kind of have to.
Yep.
Because the clarification to that is the Hierophant. So the Hierophant, the Two of Pentacles, and the King of Swords. So there's two meanings for this about the King of Wands for me. This is about learning the lesson. This is about commitment, which we talked about, Robin, right? Commitment to the journey, right? It's commitment, but it's also learning the lesson to choose. This is about choice of making decisions that are all based in him. Inspiration, vision, leadership, pioneer. It's about commitment. What I'm hearing more than anything about the whole entity, the mission statement, the mission of this entity is about committing and deciding that this entity is going to always inspire. Always.
Wow.
And if it's not inspiring anymore, then we need to reinvent.
Wow.
It's this evolution of helping people connect with who they really are. And I believe there are going to always be new ways of inspiring people, especially as more and more people are awakened. We're always going to be evolving. We're always going to be learning. And there'll be these new ways that we can't even imagine, I believe. And I think Karen does too, that will allow us to connect to our souls and to our purpose and to helping one another. And so we always want to be at the forefront of that. There is nothing if we don't always continue to inspire and reinvent what that means, or how it's done, I should say.
Not only do I see it being tested, but I see like this safe space, this comfortable space. The Temperance is kind of, she's, has a calmness to her. So if things are running smoothly, then, why rock the boat, right? But then what rocks the boat is competition.
I think what you're also reading into this is it's not just about what we're building as an entity. It's a journey that we're on. The entity is the experience that we're having as souls together as we go through it. But everything that you're talking about here is about, this is a message for us as souls and what we have to remember.
The entity itself is really secondary, because I think it's, if you're on your soul path and you're doing your purpose, then it shows in the 3D.
I hope that anyone listening or seeing this sees the depth even in this reading. I mean, so can you imagine when you're talking about your own soul, the depth that you're going to go through, because it's even more. But this to me is so deep in helping us go forward.
This is why I love tarot so much, because they're tangible. I mean, I could say these things, I guess, but there's tangible things. Like the first card starting out is him. The middle and heart of your reading starting out is him. And the very last card of your reading is him. And I will say, even people listening to this, they don't know your journeys, just like I really don't know, right? So they might hear it and be like, it sounds interesting, but you two are hearing it in a totally different way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much for digging in with us.
I'm excited for a year from now and then 2 years now to look at it and see where we are and see where we are within this journey that you just mapped out.
Do you want me to end with the oracle message?
Please. I love that.
Everyone should have this deck, by the way, just for themselves. It's very powerful. It's called the Wisdom of the Oracle. One last message for Robin and Karen on their journey to create this entity. It very much resonates with the King of Wands. You got this card. Why? Motives, driving intention, the power of knowing the why. Sometimes subconsciously denying the truth may drive you toward a specific outcome that actually aligns with an intention hidden from your awareness. Now is the time for deep soul searching of the why that drives your choices. What you uncover will set you free and bring you ever closer to the happiness you seek. So why? That's about mission.
Mission. It's all about the mission.
In both your readings separately, right? This was the right path. So
Yeah.
And like I said, this is the heart of the reading is, I mean, you can't get more successful than that.
Inspire others who hopefully then inspire others who hopefully inspire others, right? To be living the life that they came here to live. If we can do that, then we're doing what we came here to do.
And then you don't worry about what the entity looks like because it'll be formulated from your higher self.
Yeah. Michelle, thank you. I mean, meeting you has been a gift. You're not part of our tribe.
Well, thank you. It's been a gift for you too. I mean, this has been fantastic.
Can you tell people how they can contact you if they're interested in a reading?
The best way to contact me is my email, which is m@mt as in Tom, Nolan, NOLAN.com.
And if someone wants to follow you on social, is Instagram the best place to find you?
Yes, Instagram, which my handle is Michelle.Nolan, but all the L's are ones. All right, ladies.
Bye. Bye.